I guess I'm gonna get into it now.
We are an unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Okay, so I need to start off by stating this video is my opinion and not a declaration of what is fact, simply because the MCU has a lot of fans and some of them are not going to be happy with this video. But it should also be noted that I have a huge love of Marvel in general. So, case in point, I grew up reading the comic books. When Iron Man first came out in 2008, I saw it day one at the theater. I lost my mind with Nick Fury made an appearance after the credits, and I was just hooked ever since. I've loved every chapter of the series since 2008. And I've enjoyed the series so much that I typically will watch the entire series chronologically once a year. There's not a lot of series that I do that with. So I was really looking forward to WandaVision when it was announced. And I'll admit that not everything in the MCU is absolute gold. Case in point, my least favorite movie or chapter in the series, not counting television, because I know that's technically not canon anymore, was Iron Man 2. That was my least favorite film. I felt that they wasted Sam Rockwell's character. I felt that they wasted Mickey Rourke's character. And I thought that Scarlett Johansson was the complete worst choice for Black Widow. I thought she was terrible. I could not stand the character in Iron Man 2. And thankfully, they switched that around in Avengers. And now I absolutely love Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. But that movie just... It was the weakest chapter in the entire MCU. And some of you are probably noticing that I said was. And the reason for that is because Iron Man 2 no longer holds that mantle. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I mean, come on, Captain Marvel was worse than Iron Man 2. No, I had fun with Captain Marvel. It wasn't perfect, but there were things about it that I enjoyed. It was released during a time when they had a more coherent vision of what they wanted to do with the series. So I don't give Captain Marvel the crap that a lot of people usually do. But now the title is no longer with Iron Man 2. My least favorite chapter of the MCU now goes to WandaVision. And suffice to say, it's a steaming pile of garbage crap. I can't stress that enough. I had got a subscription to Disney Plus for the second season of Mandalorian, and when it was about to end, I noticed that 3 days later, WandaVision would begin. The first episode would air. So, I didn't cancel the subscription, and I paid for another month just to see WandaVision. And because they released the series weekly, I had to pay for 2 months. So I spent $14 to see WandaVision. And essentially, I cannot get that money back. Because this was not worth $14. This wasn't even worth $7. Where to begin? So, okay. I'll kind of do this episode by episode with as few spoilers as humanly possible, because I know some of you are looking forward to seeing the show. You might want to save your time and energy, but you might do it regardless. But so, me and a whole bunch of friends decided to sit down and watch the first episode Friday morning it released. And all of us were big Marvel fans. We've all seen all of the MCU films, okay? So, I mean, we kind of made an event out of it. And so we sat down, all excited to watch it, and we hit play, and just... we watched it, and then the credits roll, and we just kind of looked at each other, like... what did we just watch? What did we just put ourselves through? Because it wasn't it wasn't something that was Marvel related. I mean, Marvel is usually good quality, good graphics, CGI on game mode, good story writing, good acting, and none of that was present in the first episode. It was just utter garbage. And my friends and I were looking at each other, and they just kind of... they walked out. They did not watch the next episode. Longtime fans of over 10 years who have been loyal fans of the MCU walked out. They walked out. I stuck because I thought, okay, clearly it's not going to be like this each and every episode. So I watched episode 2 and I suffered through it. I'm just watching it and I'm watching it and it's just like, is anything going to happen? And apart from like some little droplings of like not everything is as it seems, nothing substantial happened. And after I finished episode 2, I was just thinking, what is going on? Because this is not the series that I love. This is not the series that I've been loyal to. And I was not looking forward to the 3rd episode the following week. I was actually kind of dreading it. MCU property. And so I started watching episode 3, and I'm watching it, and I nearly walked out halfway through the episode. It was like, this is complete and utter garbage. This is crap. This is swill. This is not good quality. It's not even good quality of the early 90s Marvel films that everyone hates. I mean, I would much rather sit through the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, the Fantastic Four film that was never released, and even Howard the Duck before I suffer through this garbage again. Alright, that's how bad this show is. And a lot of people like to use the defense, well, it's a homage to the sitcoms of the 1950s and the 60s and the 70s, and each episode follows a different decade of sitcoms. And to them, I simply say, I understand that because I grew up watching these sitcoms. I grew up watching I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Alf, Malcolm in the Middle, alright? I grew up watching all of these sitcoms, and the one difference that those sitcoms have to WandaVision is those shows are actually funny, alright? That's one of my biggest issues with WandaVision is all of the jokes, like 98% of all the jokes in WandaVision fall flat. They're cringy. They're pathetic. It feels like a non-humorous person made these jokes. Okay? They are not funny at all. And I guess they were insinuating that the shows from the 50s and 60s and 70s weren't funny either. But, like, I can pop in a couple episodes of I Dream of Jeannie randomly and have a chuckle every now and then. Not with this. The first time I laughed at one of the jokes in the show was one joke made by a unimportant side character in the middle of episode 3. And as cute as that joke was, it did not redeem the hour and a half I wasted on this show at this point. And by the end of episode 3, I was ready to walk out and leave. But then the end of episode 3 did something that was kind of clever, but like anyone with half a brain cell saw coming. So when episode 3 ended, it was like, okay, I saw this coming, but it was not worth suffering through all that garbage to get there. And so another week goes by. And then episode 4 starts playing. I am not looking forward to it. I'm simply suffering through because I'm trying to be loyal to this franchise that I've been with for over 10 years. And it starts off amazing. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a fluke. There's no way that this show would just have such a pivot. But no, episode 4, the way it starts off, and just as it's going, it feels like an actual writer with Marvel started writing for the show. That's the only way I can explain it. And it leads me to an issue I'm starting to have with the MCU. It started off not with this, but with Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, that movie, the first half of that film is utter garbage. It is terrible. It is hard to watch because it is just so bad that I have no idea what they were doing behind the scenes at Marvel with Spider-Man Far From Home. I mean, the first half of that film is painful to watch because it's not about Spider-Man. It's about a European vacation and a kid that's trying to impress a girl, and it has nothing to do with Spider-Man. It's not until the halfway point that the writers, or probably replacement writer, that's the only way it feels like, was brought in and goes, hold on a second. This is supposed to be about Spider-Man, so let's actually make it about Spider-Man. And the second half of Spider-Man Far From Home is amazing. So I thought that was just a fluke. But when I saw the first episode of WandaVision, I realized this might be the writing on the wall, which I do not like. That this might be the writing on the wall. And so I was hoping that the same thing happened, where the first 3 episodes were complete garbage, and once episode 4 happened, the show's going to get better. Episode 4 is great. It's impressive. I absolutely love it. And so after finishing episode 4, I had renewed interest in the series. I thought, okay, good. It's finally getting good, let alone decent. I would have been happy if it just got decent. But it's finally getting good. And then episode 5 happens. And they decided to have a mixture of crap garbage and good MCU quality stuff. I did not like this. Because I had suffered through the crap garbage. And I was thinking, okay, maybe this is just episode 5. But no, it keeps going. And I want to take a diversion to talk about an issue I have with the show. And that is that one of the biggest issues I have with the show are that the characters are really inconsistent. Alright? They do not have a consistent narrative path. So, for example, in Episode 4, there is a character introduced who's the head of an agency. And when you meet this guy, he's like the coolest boss ever. I mean, just like, I was completely wowed by like, oh wow, this guy seems really neat. I mean, he seems like a really awesome boss that I would like to have one day. But then in later episodes, just does a 180 and comes off as the biggest dick in the world. And it was like, okay, maybe like he's showing his true colors, but then a later episode after that, he comes off as very logical, and while not exactly giving, he's making some really good points, and it's like, okay, so first he was coolest boss in the world, massive dick, and now he's logical and understanding? And then even after that, they make it where he is so over the top evil that the only thing missing is the mustache for him to twirl. I mean, it is laughably bad how inconsistent all the characters are in this show. And it's not just with him. Alright, there's another character that's brought in from a previous film, like a side character, and I always remembered her as being like kind of this fun character, and when they reintroduce her, I'm like, oh, she's back, and then she immediately starts coming off as the biggest asshole in the world. And I'm thinking, what's going on? I mean, why is she being such a dick to everyone? And she's one of the protagonists. I mean, to the point she's even a dick to Jimmy Woo for one moment. And it's like, you don't do that. But so I move on to episode 6. Alright? And it just got worse. I mean, it really got worse. To the point that the good parts that was introduced in episode 4 and was sprinkled throughout episode 5 were not keeping my interest anymore. It was like all the crap that I was suffering through was overbearing on the little good parts that I was getting. And then another week goes by. I have to wait another week. Episode 7. And episode 7 did nothing interesting. It just felt like it was dragging on. It didn't feel like it was moving forward at a good pace. And they do this big surprise at the end of episode 7, and it's like, yeah, if you have a computer and internet, you kind of know that surprise is coming. And that's one of the biggest problems with the show, is that all of the surprises, all of them, the twist, one, you kind of didn't see coming if you were really hawkish and didn't read any of the theories and whatnot. But even then, that surprise was a waste, because what it was alluding to turned out to be, oh yeah, no, we were just having fun at the fans' expense. It's like, okay, gee, thanks. Screw you too. And so, I wait another week. And episode 8 comes out. I'm not looking forward to it. And it was amazing. Because it felt like they actually had a Marvel writer writing episode 8. It felt like the same person who wrote episode 4 wrote episode 8. And I absolutely loved episode 8. But apparently I'm like the only one, because there were some people, they thought episode 8 was the weakest in the entire series. I need to stop going to IGN. That's all I have to say. They don't really know what they're doing anymore. So, watched episode 8. It was really good. There was like no crap junk in episode 8. It was just like episode 4. And then episode 9 comes out the following week. It's the season finale, and it was okay. It wasn't as good as 8 or 4. It wasn't as bad as like 6 or 1 through 3. But like, even though the story is kind of concluded by the end of episode 9, I felt like it was not worth my pain and suffering to get what I got. Alright? Because I had 2 good episodes, 1 okay episode, and the rest was garbage. Out of 9 episodes. And so, I mean, and also there were some loose ends. I won't really hold that against the show, because there were some loose ends with a lot of MCU projects. But, I mean, the fact that they just have this one character gone, it's like, oh, where's this character? It's like, yeah, that character doesn't do debriefings. It's like, really? That's how we're leaving that character? Okay. Why am I surprised? I was expecting at least okay writing when all I've been getting is crap garbage writing this entire series. Mark my words, the writer of this show is an amateur. They are not a good writer. I mean, okay, there were some good aspects to the show, but it's not worth suffering through the garbage that you have to go through to get those good aspects. And keep in mind, for the few of you out there who are going to try and make this about me being sexist, I like Wanda as a character. I liked her in Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War. I really like her as a character. I like her as an Avenger. I was really looking forward to this, and I like the direction they want to go with her. But if I have to go through another sitcom fantasy thing for her next outing, I'm not going to go through that. I'm not going to suffer through that. Alright? I'm hoping that the second Doctor Strange film, which is the next thing she's going to be in, is going to at least be decent. I'm not even hoping for good anymore. That's how shit this show is. Because I just want Doctor Strange 2 to be decent. That's it. And I would have loved to have, if I was a better editor than I am now, I would have loved to have re-edited this entire show into a 2.5 or 3 hour movie. Because then it might actually be good. Because the overall story is an interesting concept. There are good things in here. But again, too much useless, unnecessary junk garbage in this show. And so I'm really afraid this is a sign of things to come, because they already screwed up with Spider-Man Far From Home. They really royally screwed up with this. And is the next thing Black Widow? I'm really hoping they don't screw up with that. I'm really hoping they don't screw up with Spider-Man 3, but the way it's looking, if it keeps on this trajectory, I am done with the MCU. I am not bluffing. If you'd like to not waste $14, do not waste it on this. Now, right now, you would only pay $7 because the entire show's out now. So, I highly recommend you now watch it now the series is over. I'm not going to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier until the entire show's out. I am done with this weekly release nonsense. This weekly release crap. Okay? Ever since Netflix came out with binge watching, that's it for me. I'm done with that. Only thing I want to do now is binge, because I'm sick and tired of waiting a week in between each episode. And yes, if I didn't do this right when it first came out, I might not have been so native against this show, since I could watch it all at once. But even if I could watch it all at once, still, it's not worth your time. This is worse than, I'm trying to think of the worst superhero film I've ever seen. This is worse than the Fantastic Four movie that came out in the mid, 2014, 2015. Okay? I mean, this is worse than X-Men 3. This is worse than... I'm trying to think of really bad superhero movies I have suffered through. I mean, if I was to ever watch this again, and that is a big if, I would only watch episode 4, 8, and 9. That's it. Do yourself a favor and do not waste your time and money on this steaming pile of garbage. That is all.